We call ourselves growing nations. We want to have an impact in the Basotho nation. Lesotho is a small landlocked country inside of South Africa. In the late 1800s and 1900s, they could sustain themselves and they even exported food to South Africa. The pity is that has stopped completely. No food is leaving this country anymore. The history books in Lesotho tell us the story of how the plough became a hit overnight. People were just desperate to have a plough because they could handle much bigger areas of land. And a woman will refuse to marry a man if he didn't have a plough. But very few people realize the effect that would have on the land, on their soil fertility, and immediately soil erosion started when the ploughs came in. And nobody put two and two together, realizing it's the plough that's causing the soil erosion. We're standing here in a field where it's right on the edge of this gully. And this gully is creeping slowly but surely up into these fields. Formerly, all of this that we see in front of us was productive land. Today, there's nothing left. And a farm is like a living inheritance that we pass on to our children. Now, what are we passing here on to our children? This man's land is forever gone. If you only lose 1 single millimeter of soil off 1 hectare of land, you are losing 10 tons of soil that's washing down to the river. Now, you can never replace that soil. This man here isn't losing 1 millimeter of soil. He's losing a couple of millimeters of soil right now. And this is a light rain. What will happen in a heavy thunderstorm? The biggest problem with farming is the way people see themselves with their worldview. If we look at a typical way Africans see their circumstances and themselves, they are victims.
We do believe that our ancestors have got the control on the land, on the fields, on whatever it's around. It is not actually God. So when it is dry, it is because we failed to practice the regulations and the laws from our ancestors.
If you look at concentric circles, right at the heart of things, you've got the belief, what people believe about themselves. The next one that flows out of this is the values that people have. So your values are determined by your beliefs. Out of your values comes your behavior, and from your behavior comes consequences. The Basotho say, "Ke mofutsana ke tla sala mofutsana." It means, I'm poor, I'm going to be poor for the rest of my life. Now, if you believe that about yourself, definitely you're going to be poor. According to our Christian worldview, we've got 4 key relationships that really suffered after the fall that we read of in Genesis 1. It's our relationship with God, our relationship with others, our relationship with ourselves, and our relationship with nature. Now, the church have got lots to say about a relationship with God and others, much less about ourselves and nature. And the way we view ourselves is essential in the way we farm and the way we view nature and our relationship towards nature. And we've got to care for nature and care for creation. And if we don't do that, there would always be a problem in the way that we farm, exploiting what we have and not putting back and caring for creation. If we would like to become better farmers, I think it is just so valuable that we go and learn from the best farmer. God is the best farmer. God created everything. God knows what soil should be like. If we go out into nature, what do we find? There's never soil inversion. Why is it that God can farm on a 50, 60, 70 degree slope without any soil erosion? We can hardly do that on a 5-degree slope. When you go out into a virgin forest, you always find a thick blanket of organic matter on top of the soil. That organic matter is God's blanket, and that is so important to soil health. And the third thing that we find in nature, there's always a diversity of plants. Now, if we relate this back to our land, if we want to become better farmers, we need to embrace these principles.
Our main role here we see is teaching and training. We're definitely not into giving handouts and things like that. We try and get people to look at the resources that they have and to use those resources to do their agriculture. One of the things that we've noticed that in agricultural projects is that a lot of the time they start with the technology and they try to change people's behaviour with the technology, and traditionally we've discovered that this approach doesn't work. And the way we approach things is that we start with the people's belief system.
We teach them a biblical worldview. We serve a personal God. God takes personal interest in us. God has placed this amazing resources for us out there in nature to manage and to use. I'm not a victim of drought. If I mulch my land properly, I can handle the heavy rainstorms that come, and then I can conserve so much moisture in the soil that I can pull through extreme dry periods. So, in other words, we're helping people to start to think differently. If we can think differently, the circles will change, as we talked earlier, and the consequences ultimately would be different. And I will have enough food and I could sell, but I can manage these extremes, and I'm not a victim of nature anymore. I'm a steward, and that's what we're trying to communicate.
It seems as if we've been lost for a long time. That's why the land is like this. The farming goes where help the pastors, it helps the communities, it helps the Basotho. It helps them to see the resources around them so that they can use them without any cost, without depending on the donors, and use whatever the local material that they can have.
People's minds get changed whereby they see that we can live right here where we are. We don't have to leave the country. We have to work right here where we are because we can produce a lot of food right here. And they see all these opportunities of businesses, and now they're able to sell to other people in their communities.
What is the dream that we have for Africa? We want to see great agriculture. Agriculture that tells a story. People's land is telling a story of God's goodness and abundance that we find in nature. But that is not the final goal. The final goal is to see transformed lives. People living in a new relationship to God, to themselves, to others, but also to nature. And people's lives tell a story that God is present in their lives.